Alright, so we first have to talk about some of the theorists who helped us to establish a bridge to the contemporary social theories that we're going to look at. Talcott Parsons is one of those theorists. Talcott Parsons comes from the functionalist perspective, and his writing is considered to be some of the most challenging writing in the field of sociology. He was a very, very complex theorist, and even by his own accord, oftentimes recognized that his writing could be somewhat confusing and difficult to interpret. So we're going to take his work just a little bit at a time here, and we're going to start with his systems levels. Okay, so to start, Parsons takes these systems levels and he tries to sketch out or hack out different systems that interrelate with each other to help make the structure of society. And these four systems, the cultural system, the social system, the personality system, and the behavioral organism as a system, the individual essentially, all four of these things, he says, are interrelated and dependent upon each other. They all work and interact together on some level to help us to have a structure that we can all agree to live in, to abide by, essentially. And so he starts hacking out these sorts of ideas about what a cultural system will be, what a social system would look like, etc. So let's take these one at a time and see if we can figure out what it is that Parsons was trying to explain to us with regard to his ideas about systems levels. Alright, so let's talk first about the cultural system. Now remember, all of these systems are pieces or building blocks of society in regards to Talcott Parsons' thinking about how society sticks together. So he says in order to analyze this cultural system that is part of society, we have to use meanings. Meanings, not people, are the units of measurement with regard to our cultural system. For Parsons, some examples of meanings would include language, morals, values, and if you think about it, this makes a lot of sense. These meanings help to form how we are socialized into society. So it's part of a process that brings us into the cultural system, which is an important component of our society. Talcott Parsons says that these meanings and the socialization process that accompany them help to maintain social control, and that this social control is the glue that holds society together. So for him, this cultural aspect of the system is a big deal. Alright, the second system as part of society is the social system, and here he says that the interactions that we have with others, based on the roles that we're playing, are the units of measurement. So again, not the individual necessarily, but the roles that that individual plays in society. These interactions can include two people, they can include entire groups of people. So it's important to understand here, I want to stress to you, that he's not talking about individual personalities that are interacting with each other when he talks about the social system. What he's talking about is the roles that we're all playing in the social world. So here's an easy example for you. The person speaking to you right now, you identify in the role of teacher, but that is not who I am. I'm talking to you in the role of student, but that is not who you are. We don't know each other on an intimate level. However, we have interactions based on expectations that are inherent in the role. In other words, you know exactly how a teacher is supposed to behave, and so do I. Likewise, we both understand how a student is supposed to behave, and we conduct ourselves accordingly in a social setting. And so what happens here is we have these interactions, and this allows us to have a foundation by which we can all exist together, because we understand the expectations that each of those roles has inherent in it. This motivates us also to have a shared reality so that when we go out into the social world, there is a certain contract, if you will, that we understand to be there. There's a reciprocity that we expect from each other. And further, there are certain shared behaviors that we will expect to happen when we're out there in that social system. But make no mistake here, this is not about the individual. It's not about you as an individual or me as an individual. It's about the system and the roles we play in that social setting. All right, so we don't actually start talking about the personality, or Parsons doesn't anyway, until he gets to the personality system, where we use the individual as the unit of measurement. And so here we get to see how society is influenced by the actions of individuals. Those actions are based on our personal needs, our personal motivations, our attitudes and our beliefs about other people and ourselves. And further, Parsons says that we gravitate towards self-gratification and personal profit maximization. Now, what does that mean? It seems a little jaded to me. However, I have to say also that I think there is some truth to that. I think that we do want to guard ourselves at most costs, maybe not all costs. I think parents with their children might put themselves in harm's way before the child. However, I think in most cases in a social setting, we're kind of looking for, is this going to work to my benefit? We do a cost-benefit analysis. We probably do that very, very quickly in our head. And it may be that we start out with the best of intentions to be helpful to someone else or to satisfy or gratify someone else's wishes. But in the end, I believe that we are somehow using our own individual motivation as part of the decision-making process there. So here, this piece of his system, this part of society, is where the individual comes into play. All right, now the fourth component of his system's levels is the behavioral system, and here is where Parsons comes back around to his history in biology. He started out as a biology major in his undergraduate degree, and so here is where he starts to examine and explore the interplay between sociology and biology, which is called the field of sociobiology. To analyze this system, he says we have to use a biological component. And so what he's talking about here is the actual physical environment and the physical body. These are the units of measurement here. He says where we live is important to how we exist in society, and the physical body we have is also an important component of how we exist in society. And an example of that is an able-bodied person versus perhaps a person who has a broken leg or a permanent impairment that might land them in a wheelchair or using a prosthetic limb. You can see that the actual experience of those individuals in the structure of society can be dramatically different. And so for him, while this system was very, very close to the ideas of sociobiology, he says that this is an important component because it gives us the biological equipment, the physical, environmental equipment, and the body to be able to live and interact in society. All right, so now looking at all four of these components together, you can see why Parsons would be labeled a functional theorist, and further, why the label of structural functionalism was applied to him. He really was all concerned with how the structure of society worked and what the basic components of that structure are. And here we see that he labels those four components: the cultural system, the social system, the personality system, and the behavioral organism as a system. All right, so I hope this helps. As I said, Parsons isn't the easiest to understand, and it is rather difficult to break him down into just a few words, but hopefully this gives you a foundation to read a little bit of his work and to see if you can wade your way through it. All right, we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.